Rise up. Welcome to Rise Up Radar, where we keep the Falcons on your radar. Thank you for joining me, Stan Parker, for another episode. Let's have a ballin' show. Joining me tonight is a good buddy, Todd Brooks. Been a Falcons fan for a long time. Really smart guy. Just got a big brain for the Falcons, and we're gonna have some good conversations tonight. Todd, welcome to the show, man. How are you going? How you doing, man?
Doing great. Thanks for having me, Stan.
Oh, hey, man. The pleasure's all mine. I always enjoy when someone knows the nuts and bolts, like Chris and like you and Zach and the other people around. But I just always get, I get the juices flowing, man. I get super excited. So,
Awesome.
Yo, football is a week away, brother.
Yes, sir.
Can you believe it? Dude, it's like today, what? Today's Thursday. So, I mean, we're literally a week away.
Yeah.
And so now whether or not, we'll start, I don't want to get too deep into this, but, whether we finish the season is another question itself. But like the starting of the season, I can only imagine like how bonkers and how the rating is going to be on the TV. So I'm excited for the season. So we're going to get into these questions. I got some questions for Todd. We're going to kick it around a little bit, and we're going to get this party started. So my first question to you, Mr. Brooks, what, in your estimation, what has been the biggest surprise of this offseason?
Okay. Well, I hate to harp on this.
Okay.
But we're going to get I do believe that the draft was probably the biggest surprise of the offseason, not because so much that it was a surprise, but more because it was disappointing again to me.
Whoa. Okay.
I really was looking to pick up some different players, move some pieces around. We really needed help with being able to put pressure on the quarterback. We did not get that in the first round. And I do think that A.J. Terrell was a reach, the guy from Clemson. And I'm going to tell you why he was a reach.
Tell me, Todd.
I'm going to tell you. Okay, so I look at Clemson. Okay, we've already drafted the Atlanta Falcons. We've already drafted several Clemson players already. And some of them, they're hit and miss. Grady Jarrett's worked out wonderfully. He's been great.
Yeah, I would say so.
But then you have Vic Beasley. And that's not working. Right. Now, it worked out good for a year. I mean, in 2016, the Falcons were a very good defensive team. He had a record season. But then after that, the wheels started coming off, and now he's gone.
Right.
So we go back to Clemson again, and we get what is supposed to be an elite corner. But I feel like he was a reach. He did not perform quite as well in the postseason as you would have liked him to. And this is just my perspective.
Okay.
When you up against an elite receiver like Jamar Chase, and you're supposed to be this elite shutdown corner, then you need to shut him down.
Okay.
And Jamar Chase, that day during the championship game when LSU played Clemson, had 221 yards and 2 touchdowns. And A.J. Terrell could not stop him. And to me, it looks like that you're pretty much going to have another version of Desmond Trufant on the team. And also not one of my favorite players.
Wow. That's a strong opinion. And to play devil's advocate, Todd, if I may.
Sure.
You can't judge one game of a player's career for one game. So that's the argument I now, and if you look at if you go back and watch film, he wasn't as burnt crispy as everybody thinks he was burnt crispy. He had 2 or 3 pretty glaring times where he was burnt. But I mean, he was playing I feel like he was playing pretty toe to toe with the guy by and large through the other 90% of the games or plays. But I'm just saying you can't judge him on one game. So,
sure, I can respect that. However, I will say this. Who else did he really go against that was an elite level receiver? Because
he did
like CC, where competition is extremely scarce for a team like Clemson, there's nobody there that can match up with them. And so I just, that was the game where he really needed to perform well, and he did not.
Wow. Okay, that is a good point of being in the ACC and not having, like we said, the elite level of. But here's on the other side of that. Obviously, you were going against like the draft, but in practices and scrimmages, where the points don't matter and that the games are made up. But when in scrimmages, they say that he's been running with the ones and he's been money. So we'll see.
Hey, I hope he performs much better than I think he will, but I kind of think we're getting another Desmond Trufant. And that kind of scares me a little bit because Desmond Trufant had his moments.
For sure. Yeah.
But one thing about Desmond Trufant is that he often over pursued the ball. He would give up he would get burned on a touchdown.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff that really bothers me. I mean, you look at the stats for Terrell too. I mean, he really didn't do a lot as far as interceptions.
Nope.
Had one interception back in 2017. That was his freshman year. And then in 2018, he had 3. In 2019, he had 2. So, I mean, we're not exactly getting an interception machine here. His tackles were okay. He had 40 tackle season in college in 2018. But even last year, as far as solo tackles go, he had 24. And obviously the main thing for a corner is not to be tackling.
Right. You want to be breaking them up. You want to be intercepting. Yeah.
You should bring a little bit more. He didn't even score. He scored 1 touchdown on defense. He brought it back to the house 1 time for a team like Clemson, who doesn't really play strong competition. I mean, to me, he should be returning it to the house a lot more than that.
So just continuing on in this thought, this is good. We started with the hot fire on the first question. I love this. So continuing on with that thought, going off the rails, where would you have gone right there? At what pick was that? 14, 15, something around there?
I mean, in an ideal world, I would have liked to maybe have moved up in the draft and get a Derek Brown. That's the player. But I just don't know if we really had enough to give in order to get that pick anyway. I mean, ideally, if you start off the season 1-7 like the Falcons did last year, you kind of just don't want to get hot at the end of the season and retain your draft position. You could have been in a position to get a much better draft pick. But oftentimes we can't really count on the Falcons to get the pick right anyway. I mean, I'm going to tell you, just since Thomas Dimitroff has been the GM of the Falcons, I've never been happy with any of his drafts, really, overall. They've all been kind of disappointing. Now, I think the 2015 draft worked out okay for what it was at the time. And we got Grady Jarrett out of the deal. Big B's at the very beginning, but not so much at the end. So that was probably his best draft.
Was that the same draft as Keanu Neal as well?
He was the 2016 draft.
Okay, 2016 was Keanu Neal and Deion Jones.
Yeah, and by the way, and both those picks ended up being pretty good, but Keanu Neal had injury problems. We don't know really if he's going to be 100% himself anymore. He came back out on the field last year and tore the ACL again. So, I mean, is he going to be up to par to be able to play? And he worked out really well. I still thought he was a reach, even when Dimitroff picked him, or if Dan Quinn's pulling the straw. I think more that might be a Dan Quinn pick.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't know. I really like that 2016 draft, but by and large, so I think Thomas Dimitroff gets a lot of heat, but I feel like that for the skill position players, the offensive skill position, I think he picks them well. I think obviously finding Grady in the 5th round was a gem, and he's not really known for that, but picking skill positions, I think he's done a pretty good job. Now, everybody craps on him for taking Vic Beasley over Todd Gurley. That's the big one that always come back to, and I, at the time we needed pass rush, which you still need pass rush. All right. Here's the deal. They hadn't had a real legit pass rush since the Predator, John Abraham.
That's right. It's been a
So,
while.
That's been a while. I have no clue when's the last. I'm going off the reservation here. I have no clue when's the last time he played for the Falcons.
I think 2013 or 14 was the last time he played for the Falcons.
Jeez, see, that's too long. See, remember the OCU Manure days?
Yes.
You remember that experiment? Oh wait, no. Dwight Freeney made Vic Beasley a Pro Bowler.
Yes.
Dwight Freeney, the incumbent, the Hall of Famer, one of the best pass rushers of all time, and the twilight of his career, suited up with the red and black and made people scared of him, so much so that they forgot who Vic Beasley was, and Vic Beasley got to the quarterback 16 and a half times. So he made, he made him better, but like a legit in the prime pass rush, for sure, the Predator, John Abraham.
Sure.
Like talking about that pick, I would have liked to. Okay, back to what you were saying, like trading up to get Derek Brown. I think that I agree with you to a point. You'd have to mortgage your future, because he wasn't the only. If they were, Seattle and they were player away, maybe, or not maybe, but for sure, if you're a player away, but they're not a player away. They've got gaps everywhere. They still try to fill gaps.
Why you need to, especially in a draft where you don't have that many picks anyway, you need to be able to make the most of your picks. I mean, one thing that's always really bothered me about the Atlanta Falcons too is that they always will go and reach for some of those players from small conferences. They don't draft very many players from an elite level conference like the SEC, which is why I like the second pick that the Falcons made.
Okay, talk about that. Who's that?
Marlon Davidson. He's a defensive. I think he is going to have a good career. I think he's going to be the best player that the Falcons drafted.
So that's one of my so like what has been the biggest surprise of this offseason? The biggest I have a couple written down that the first one was Marlon Davidson being hurt and not getting any playing time. He's been hurt. I mean, I don't think he's practiced yet, has he? He's got a knee sprain. He hasn't practiced.
No, right. It all comes down to it, and he gets some playing time that he's going to have a good career.
Yes, that's the key, having a good career. And I think he'll be the value pick of this draft. I think he'll be the best player selected in this draft with the overall career standpoint. But one of my biggest surprises of the season was the signing of Darqueze Dennard. I didn't see that coming. They've drafted a corner. They've got corners galore, and they went out and got another corner really on the cheap. And just looking at his credentials, that he's a legit starting slot corner. And so I think he's going to be really good in this system. So that was a big surprise for me. Got him from Cincinnati. So I don't know exactly, can't remember what the stipulations were, and then my last kind of point of the biggest surprise of this offseason was Dante Fowler. Not just the signing of Dante Fowler, but the leadership that Dante Fowler has been bringing so far. That he's working with Tack one-on-one on drills, and Tack's already starting to say that, I'm learning from him, and he's bringing the energy and being a vocal leader. I did not expect Dante Fowler to come in and be a vocal leader and just take that by the horns and run with it. So I think that's one of my biggest surprises of all season for sure.
Definitely.
So
I would agree with you.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to move on to my next question for you.
Yes, sir.
Who is going to be the most improved player on the squad? Who do you think is going to take the biggest step in this coming 2020 season?
Okay. Well, I don't think that the player that's going to take the biggest step is going to be a member of the team from last year. I think you're going to be looking at Todd Gurley taking the biggest step this year. He's going to have to take the biggest step.
Man.
And just the Falcons running game in general, because last year, it really can't get any worse, can it?
No.
The three running the football. And that's not good for a team with a bad defense either. They're going to have to run the football better this year if they're going to have a chance to win over 8 games. If they're going to win somewhere between 9 and 10 games, they have to run the ball. If they want to make the playoffs, I think the ceiling for them is probably 11 wins this year anyway. But if they can run the ball, they have a great shot.
Yes, that's the like. Okay, so then on top of that, so like the running the ball is so complex too, like for the offensive line play, and also too, the doggone coaching, brother. Like Dirk Cutter makes me so nervous. He is vanilla as it gets. I mean, that's giving him a lot of credit. Like vanilla at least has flavor. Like I don't know what's the flavor of this seasoning you can get, but he scares me of being so predictable and so vanilla. And not, you have Todd Gurley. He's an elite talent. He's been a little banged up. He's got a lot of miles on his tires, but you got to use him in the right packages, and you got to use him not necessarily a bell cow anymore, but you got to give, he's a puncher. You got to give him in rhythm. You got to feed the monster. So, yeah, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Dirk Cutter makes me a little bit nervous too. Now, I do think that he's a guy who likes to spread the ball around. He likes to throw the ball, but he's not a guy who really has ever had the type of offense where he likes to run the ball a lot. Now, I remember when he came in as the offensive coordinator for the Falcons the first time,
right?
And Michael Turner's this big horse. He's sitting there running the ball around on all the previous years before Cutter got here. And although Cutter improved our offense, Turner's stats started going downhill immediately once Cutter became offensive coordinator.
Dude, that is a great point. He's one of my favorite Falcons of all time, by the way, is Michael the Burner Turner.
So that makes me a little bit nervous anyway. But at the same time, I really think that they're going to have a balanced game and be able to eat some clock to keep that defense off the field, because I'm still not optimistic that defense is going to be much improved over last year. They're still going to struggle to win games. So if the running game is there and they can keep that defense off the field, and it's a young defense at this point, then hopefully we can generate some wins off of that.
Yes, for sure. It's like help, like you said, controlling the clock and just playing control. I like seeing that more, like definitely to your point, because at the fourth quarter, just like we all said before, like fourth quarter as your money time, you got to be able to run it. 3rd and 1, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Every cliche you could throw at the fourth quarter needs to happen, because if you start getting cute, like we've seen before, if you got it, 4th and goal in the fourth quarter, you got to smash that thing in there, man. Like just being able to be able to run at will whenever the situation calls for a running play is the Falcons hadn't had that. I mean, well, they've had it in the Super Bowl year, running that stretch zone that they ran with Devontae Freeman. But even in short yards situation, he was so undersized that it didn't really. I mean, Todd Gurley's a legit real deal, man. And so,
if that knee's okay.
And so, man, yeah, you got me pumped down about Todd Gurley. So you got him pegged as your most improved player, is obviously from last year to this year, Falcons.
Yes.
Okay, so
he really have a good season last year, and Todd Gurley's my guy. He played for the I'm a big Georgia Bulldogs fan. He played for the Georgia Bulldogs. He's probably my second favorite running back that ever played for the Georgia Bulldogs. Herschel would be my number 1.
Okay, I was going to say, who's your first again?
Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker.
Everybody loves Herschel, man. All right. Yeah, coming back home, man. And seeing him suit up in 21, Primetime's old number, I'm going to jump the gun here and just go off the reservation again. But, hey, seeing these uniforms on the scrimmage, you watch any of that scrimmage, like footage on, like, they got it on YouTube and stuff? You watch any of the videos of the scrimmage? What do you think about the uniforms, man?
I'm not a big fan, but I've never really been a big fan of uniform changes anyway. And I think if you have something that looks good, keep it. Personally, my favorite Falcons uniform was the ones that they were wearing during the first Super Bowl run. Like, I like those uniforms. They're very plain. but they make a statement. And I thought after we changed the uniforms about 3 or 4 years after that season, that they looked awfully like collegiate looking instead of. So I'm not a big fan of these uniforms either. These new ones that have come out.
Really, I think they look. I like the black. I think the black looks sharp. The white, I'm probably gonna have to like come around on the all white. But the black looks sharp with like the black. Kind of looks like, and I like their throwback that they do, like the '90s throwback with the red outline of the numbers and stuff. But my favorite, like you're going back to like your favorite time, but like I loved it when it was when Tony G was in town and Matt Ryan was, building his repertoire of being Matty Ice. They had red helmets. I liked the red helmets. This was one of my favorite uniforms. Okay, so back to what we were talking about. Oh, most improved player. So mine is kind of going off of what you said as well, but mine's going to be the person in front of Todd Gurley. Mine's going to be Chris Lindstrom.
Okay.
Right, Chris Lindstrom at right guard, I think it's going to take a big step. He was hurt a lot of last year, but when he was back into the lineup, their running game improved. I mean, immensely just for him being in there. Just so I think he'll develop into. I'm not going to call him a Pro Bowler just yet. I need to pump the brakes on that. I know, but like I think he's going to be a really solid like. I don't know if he'll make the Pro Bowl next year, but I think I could see him developing into a sturdy, stable Pro Bowl caliber right guard man. I really like his play style, so that'll be my most improved player. I had another question for you, and I can't remember what it was. What do you think about Matt Hennessy at left guard?
I mean, yeah, I think he's a guy that could probably do okay. You really are going to have, the big boys up front anyway, that's going to be the real key to the season. If you're going to have they're not run blocking well, then it's going to be lights out. You're not going to be able to have a good season.
It doesn't matter if Herschel's standing back there if they're not blocking people.
Right, exactly. That's key.
Yeah, that's definitely key. So I'm just curious. So like they drafted him obviously to be the heir apparent for Alex Mack, and he's probably this is probably his last year.
Sure it is.
And so I just thought it was strange that they drafted a center to play left guard, but that's I think it's kind of how the cookie crumbled. And if whoever plays left guard just needs to be the left guard we got on the team. I don't care. Like I said before, it don't matter who it is to me, as long as they can lace him up and keep Matt Ryan off his back. So it's hard to throw the ball on your back. So I'm really focused on this year being like the offensive line as a whole being the most improved as well. As kind of just like a general, like you were talking about, like the running game. And I think that it ties, we're kind of on the same wavelength without even knowing that, Todd. We're like twins right now.
Yeah. If you can open for Todd Gurley,
yes,
you'll be able to keep your defense off the field.
I think so too, because the defense is the defensive line maybe has improved it has improved on paper because of Dante Fowler and what he did last year, but it's still not enough of improvement to make me like any more optimistic. You know what I'm saying? Like to be really, really optimistic about it. Now the secondary, I'm more bullish than you are on the secondary. I think the secondary is going to be the strength of the defense. So
I hope you're right about that, but I don't know.
Listen, I think, yeah, that's a little bit of a hot take that I'm sitting on an island probably by myself, but I think the secondary, including the safeties, is going to be the strength of this defense. So we'll see, because of the versatility, because they have 3 starting safeties. They have DeMonte Casey, Keanu Neal, and Ricardo Allen. They could go anywhere and start in the NFL.
Well, how do you feel about Keanu Neal's health at this point?
Okay, so this point, me personally, he's got about one more of those season-ending injuries to be in like, you know what, we probably not going to pick up that 5th-year option. And so, but I mean, on the field, you can't argue with he's a game changer. Man, they look back in that backfield and they say, we don't know no part of that. But if he can't stay on the field, you got to move on. And I sound so callous when I'm talking about this kind of stuff because Keanu Neal is obviously a fan favorite and everybody loves him. But, I mean, you got to be able to be on the field. That's, same thing with Ricardo Allen, I think. But, I mean, I think less so much with Ricardo Allen, But with Keanu Neal, like you said, just the injury thing. He was a Pro Bowler once,
I believe.
Once.
He's really only played 2 full seasons.
Right.
And he got hurt in the first game of 2018, and he got hurt, the first or second game last year, too.
Yeah, so real early.
I mean, he hasn't played many snaps the last 2 years.
Yeah, but he's a difference maker. That's the argument everybody's like, but when he's healthy, but when he's right, he's good. Or when he, so I like it's a real glaring, I'm glad they found DeMonte KZ. He's a 5th round, 6th round guy. He was late in the draft. San Diego State, I believe. One of those small town schools you're talking about. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Well,
I'm not saying you can't get good pieces from the small town schools, but I feel like more often than not, that's where the Falcons are often looking. They're not always looking like they just don't recruit. Like, okay, Stan, let me ask you a question.
Hit me.
Collegiately, which conference produces the best players in the NFL traditionally?
Is this a trick question or is this like chalk here?
Yeah, you're going to answer it.
I think I'm going to go SEC because I'm a homer.
Mm-hmm. And you would be correct. And the Falcons don't draft very many players from the SEC at all.
They don't draft so many people from Georgia. Remember, Mecole Hardman was sitting there one year, and it was it was something. No, it might not have been Mecole, but it was somebody sitting there from Georgia other than Todd Gurley, and it was like, really?
Yeah, there have been so many times where
offensive lineman, I think.
Take a guy from the Georgia Bulldogs. I can remember the one that I really wanted to be an Atlanta Falcon the most was in 1998 when Hines Ward was available, and they could have had Hines Ward too, but they decided to draft Jamie German, and that did not work. He was a wide receiver, and he played for Miami, but he flamed out in no time. And guess what? Hines Ward is
he did pretty okay for himself.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Another one I think was who else was on the board? Oh, I think was Roquan Smith on the board? No, maybe not. It was
no, I don't think so. Because he was drafted players like with the 5th pick, 4th.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah, they don't for whatever reason they just don't like drafting the Falcons. I think it's probably in their war zones. Like, oh man, or they don't like drafting the Georgia players.
No, and that would help with their fan base too, because a lot of Falcons fans are also Georgia fans. They'd love to see some Georgia guys out there in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But
yeah. Okay, so we've established we've kind of on the same accord there. On the most improved player would probably be the offensive line / running game because they're like hand in hand. And so now the next question I'm going to ask you, week 1, which is in like a week and a half, game 1, September 13th, at home, I guess the Seattle Seahawks, chunky but funky, Russ Wilson, and everybody else that they're signing. How do the Falcons pull a W? How do they eat a W out of that?
Well, right off the top of your head, that Matt Ryan's probably going to show up. That Julio Jones is going to show up. So that just leaves to be Falcons running game. Are they going to show up? Is the offensive line going to run block? Are they going to show up? If they do, they're going to walk away with the win. I mean, last year, Seattle was not very good against the run. They were ranked 22nd in the whole league against the run. So you should have some opportunities to run the ball there. And if you do that, you'll come away with a W. But if you can't, and you can't keep the defense off the field, then Russell Wilson will eat you alive.
I think a big part of and I don't have any statistical proof of this. I can't even tell. But it always seems in the last couple of years that the Falcons don't have the ball in their hand the last minute. And like, so the last minute, the other team has the ball, and it's like, okay, now you have to stop them. Drew Brees is going to march. All they need is, they need a touchdown to win this thing. Now, you got to. So I feel like with like Russell Wilson, maybe not Russell Wilson in particular, because I think they do have a pretty good record against the Seattle Seahawks just in general. I don't know if that's a Dan Quinn thing or what. People like read into that, but I think they match up well recently against the Seahawks. But Russell Wilson is one of those ones that just scare the crap out of you. Just late in games, you're like, man, he just is a scary person. So.
I agree. The thing the Falcons are going to have to avoid this year is getting into shootouts with teams, because one thing we know about the Falcons, they can score. It's just a matter of how are they going to score. They're going to score more through the air, which they've done the past 2 or 3 years, or is the running game going to actually contribute there at all? And they need that contribution from the running game, because if you're just going to pass all over the field the whole game, you're going to get into shootouts with everybody, because all these other offenses are elite. They have guys that can play. And I'm on the same page with you. The Falcons always seem like that they lose that toss in overtime, or they don't have the ball late in the game, and then somebody like Drew Brees, somebody like Russell Wilson, they're them at the end of the day. And you just, that's 50-50 ball. You only have a 50% chance to win if you get in the shootouts every single game. It's the luck of the draw. So you're going to get some production from your running game and hope for the best on defense. And I hope you're right. I hope those corners do end up being one of the best parts of the team. I'm hoping we can get some contribution from the defensive line, maybe these new linebackers that are coming in, but we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so your answer is the exact same as my answer, which is I feel like it's a pretty standard answer. It's not a revolutionary question either. But how did the Falcons beat the Seahawks? Pass rush and run the dang ball. Run. Not because, it's a running down, turn around and hand it to Todd Gurley. No, run the ball as a weapon. You want to, stay ahead of the chains, move the ball, control the clock, actually punch it in from, 10 yards out instead of waiting until we get on the 6-inch line and we're going to scrum for they don't ever do good with that either. They don't exactly have any road graders up front that you could, run behind. But so I think the pass rush is what really scares me the most. So the surprising – okay, so back to the first question, what was the biggest surprise of the offseason? The signing of Darqueze Dennard was the biggest surprise because I thought they were going to use – they had 11 million, 12 million, somewhere around there. They still had to pay the rookies. So it was enough to get a veteran men pass rusher specialist. I thought for sure they were going to go after Clay Matthews or what kind of kick the tires on an old pass rusher and or package something, figure out, move some money around to try to get Emerson Griffin. But those made too much sense, I guess, for Thomas Dimitroff. So he went slot corner from Cincinnati. So they used the money. So that was one of my biggest surprises. I forgot about that part. But one of my biggest surprises was not adding another pass rusher. So the pass rush, it's got to be better. Dante Fowler's got to he's got to add his. They both have to be in double digit. Dante Fowler and Takk McKinley have to be in double digit sacks. So that's 20 there. And if you get a couple from Grady, get 5 from Grady, or that's a good year. I guess 5. 25. So if you can get to the 40 sacks in a season, 45 sacks in a season. Now we're cooking. Now it's a weapon, and now we can really clamp down and outscore. Not winning games 48-45. Because that's obviously, like you just said, that's not sustainable. So run the ball, pass rush. That's pretty simple to say out loud. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Rise Up Radar. Go ahead and jump over to part 2 of this interview for the rest of our conversation with Todd Brooks. And until next time, rise up.